gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Random Jam Podcast. My name is Lane Mitchell, and with me as always is Reese McKinney. And today we're coming to you live from Dallas, Texas, after what was a very torrential snowstorm, including a lot of power outages and water shortages. But we are here. We are bringing you everything that involves entertainment, music, television, movies, etc. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Reese now, and he's going to introduce to you our special guest that is appearing today. So Reese, go ahead and take it away.
All right, so with us today we have what I would consider full-time artist and full-time mom, Joy Owens is here with us today. How are you doing, Joy?
Hey guys, I'm super excited to be on your podcast, my first time ever, and apparently this is also your first time ever for a female, I believe, an artist to come on the show. Is that right?
Yes.
So we're
awesome.
setting some records. We've already been setting records with the weather, so might as well keep the momentum going.
Exactly.
We're not slowing down. It's Texas.
But yeah, we're glad to have you on the show. Me and Joy, we go back to junior college. We were in art together, and she's an incredible artist. I got to see a lot of her awesome work at that time, and she's only obviously progressed since then. And she saw some of my art and was kind of like, that's interesting. But
no.
But it's nice to.
We were both experimenting at the time.
So. There you go. Well, it's nice to see you again, and it's nice to catch up and talk some entertainment with you today.
Likewise. It's good to reconnect and talk about the things that we love most. So.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to our first section of the show, which will be our icebreakers. And we're going to pose this question to you, who we've also posed this to everyone else on the show. And you get to be the first female to answer this, is how has the pandemic life been for you over this past year? That's almost just about a year from now that we've been into this. How has it been for you? And just tell us a little bit about that.
For sure. I think like everyone, it's been challenging in many different ways. And for me personally, I guess the challenge would be to entertain two little girls, both under the age of 3. One's 3 and the other is almost 2. And so without parks to go to or birthday parties or shopping malls or anything, it was just a challenge to figure out like, how are we going to use our time? And I think although it was challenging, it was also really equally rewarding. I think a lot of, especially families, found that it was really refreshing to have so much time together. You actually saw people picnicking out on their grass. Everyone's cars were parked, in their parking lots, and everybody was really spending time with each other. And it might have felt like a little too much time, but for me, it was a really good time to just make the most of a difficult situation. And I feel like we did that. Just tried to find something good in each day, even though it seemed like it lasted forever, and we're still trudging through it as we speak. So
well, awesome. Definitely. So for those who may not be familiar with who you are, just kind of give us a little bit of background on who Joy Owens is. And
for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joy Owens. I'm a California-born artist currently residing in the beautiful state of Texas with my husband, Hayden, and my 2 girls. And my full-time thing is art, creativity, both with my girls as well as experimenting with all kinds of mediums. I do painting, I do some sculpting in clay, I do some mixed media. It's really where my heart's at, as well as delving into drawing, a little digital sketching, kind of anything creative is what I like to do. That's my jam. So
nice. Well, talking about this kind of stuff is our jam.
Yeah. Glad we're here.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what over the last year of circumstances, and this will kind of be for everyone, what has it kind of done for you and for your creativity? What have been some of those challenges or enlightening moments throughout this pandemic? Has there been any output, and what have you kind of learned from all this?
I wish I could say that I like created a whole body of work because I had so much extra time during quarantine, but let's get real. I was trying to keep kids alive and happy. So, but it was like, I feel like it was like an incubator or like a pressure cooker. You have so much time to kind of conceptualize different ideas, read some books, as well as just writing down different ideas that I had. And I feel like I was able to gather a lot of that so that I have a starting point now, because since college I had to take a break after moving from Dallas back and forth, as well as having a family, and now it finally feels like I have the time and space for it, especially with the extra time provided from the pandemic. So I feel like it was good because it really showed me where my priorities were and how I can use my time. And so now I feel like I'm really geared up and focused to begin anew. I have a lot of new ideas for a new body of work. And I think hard times can either encourage us to get innovative, or they will push us to our limits. And so I think it depends on how we react to it. You know, we could say, I think we're like one of two people usually. Either we feel like we kind of just wasted our time, or we could say, you know, this was a gift and we can use it wisely and use it to find all the different things that we love in life, and use it to do things that we wouldn't normally have time for, like reading or writing or binge watching our favorite movies, you know.
Right. What about you, Lane? Has creativity or, you know, any kind of motivation been a challenge for you during this, or and what are some of the output that you've experienced, kind of based on what Joy was saying?
Yeah, you know, for me personally, I've probably listened to the most amount of music I've ever listened to in my life the past year.
Yeah.
Like, and listen to music that I normally never would, but just because it's like, you know, well, what else do I have to do? It's like, why not? And so I explored a lot of music the past year. And not only that, but it made me kind of miss the days of playing live music. So I've played my acoustic bass that
Yeah.
I've kept in the closet for a long time, like the most I ever have. And it's been a really fun
Dusted it
time.
off.
But yeah, the strings were really, really raunchy, but I was like, you know what, it's fine, it works, it'll play the note. But you know, for me personally, like I said, music, it's like it's always been a part of me, but like this past year especially, like I've really relied on artists that continue to, you know, sacrifice and put out new stuff and play live shows, you know, on the internet as opposed to in person. So it's really cool to see, you know, Reese knows some of our favorite bands still playing live shows and being able to cater to their audiences. So it's like, you know, even though, you know, the circumstances, like Joy said, they get innovative and you know, work your way around it. And so it was cool to see that happen and be able to, you know, take something away from it.
Definitely. I know for me, like the way my creativity process kind of works is I constantly have different ideas and concepts flowing through me. It's just a matter of having the time to sit down and do them, or like if I do have an idea, like whether it's like for a song or something, like I'll have a chance to like put a voice memo on my phone to like hum a melody or a beat or something like that. Or if it's a design idea, I could sketch something down really quick. Or if it's a song idea, I'll run to my computer and like build like 5 seconds of the idea so I don't forget. And so like there's all these different things that like I've done pre-pandemic in that way to kind of organize my thoughts and my ideas. But given the pandemic, it's given me a lot of more time to be able to finally execute some of those ideas, to the point where it kind of got out of control to some point where I had so many projects going on at once. I had to start focusing in on the things that I was the most passionate about. But that's kind of been how this has really kind of brought everything together for me, is taking these ideas that I've had that I've never had the time for before and finally get to execute on them. So that's been really fun and a really neat experience, and kind of show myself what I can do, outside of my normal working job of, 8 to 5, and what else I can apply to myself, or different ideas and things like that to execute in my off time. So that's kind of my experience has been like.
I think that's what it showed everybody, is kind of what life is like, outside of like the four walls of the workplace, and what we can really do with our time whenever we're not using the excuse that I have work. It's like, okay, now I have the time to pursue whatever passions I have. So no excuses. And I think it was eye-opening for a lot of people who allowed it to, to do that for them.
Right. And I know sometimes people have felt like isolated, and that's really hard for the creative process. And so I'm sure a large portion of last year was kind of, I know for me for a while, I was just kind of like stumped. It didn't know where to go as far as like, new ideas or new concepts, or just kind of every day felt like the same day. And so it wasn't until I like buckled down and realized that I do have the time and I have all these ideas to execute now. It's like, if I just go after it and do it, it'll get done at the end of the day.
Right.
So
I guess because creative people, we're very experiential, and whenever our experience is limited, sometimes it can be harder to get those wheels turning again, because we're not out there going to different places and experiencing different environments. We kind of have to like create it ourselves, or find it in whatever way. And I feel like that was something that I was really challenged to do. It's like, okay, every day is going to be kind of a rerun of the last day, unless I make it a little different. And so it was kind of like each day was like a hunt to find the silver lining. So some days it would be like going out and finding rocks and painting them bright colors with my kids, and other days it would be like having a picnic by the lake, or gathering blackberries and honeysuckles, just something little that kind of made the day feel significant and different, and something beautiful, like in the mundane.
Oh, for sure.
There's a song there, Beauty in the Mundane.
Going off.
I'm not a musician,
what
so
you said, Joy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Beauty in the mundane. That's a good point. What contributes to this past year? So my fiance and I are leaders at Chick-fil-A. So when I take over, he's serving our community. So it's really a cool escape, because I'm like, well, I'm doing what I love, and I'm still being able to listen to the creativity that I love, and it's literally a win-win. And I'm like having the time of my life. And everyone's like, how can you do this? Boring. I'm like, no, it's only boring if you make it boring. I was like, you have to. Can I just put that on a T-shirt? I was like, sure, go ahead, but you told me. It really is. It's what you make of it, for sure. So
yeah,
awesome,
definitely.
All right, so let's move on to our next topic, which will be movies and TV. So the way this will work is we'll each go around and talk about and kind of pitch to each other a movie or a TV show that has really inspired us, or we just really love. So Joy, what movie or TV show do you have for us?
Well, I would say the one show right now that has my attention is the Marvel's WandaVision TV show. I think it's very creatively done, and I'm just really enjoying the cast and kind of the different perspectives that has of what can sometimes feel like I don't know, sometimes the Marvel movies can all seem very similar, but this one's just kind of in a whole other like category of its own, and you're kind of not sure who's the hero and who's the villain, and you don't really want your hero and the villain to be the same person at the same time. So I'm really enjoying, especially now that they're kind of uncovering it a little bit more, I'm enjoying kind of getting some of the answers to the questions, but I still have a few.
Yeah, they keep dangling that carrot every week and making
like, give it to me. Give it to me. We're ready, but we're not, because we don't want it to end.
Yeah, just the concept of the show in general is just it's so out there, but so brilliant. Like being able to balance the idea of like a TV sitcom and all these different realities and things like that. And then, there's something that, without giving too much away, it's just something that Marvel can only pull off, in my opinion. Like, it's just so, but it's a great show for sure. Lane, have you seen WandaVision?
Okay, so I know it exists, but my thing is I don't want to be. Listen, here's the thing: I want to wait for all the episodes to come out because I don't like watching it one week and being like, "Oh my gosh, I have to wait a whole 7 days for the next part of it." So I just pull things out and I'm just gonna binge it all at once.
Okay.
So, yeah, no spoilers.
Not a fan of
That's
suspense.
fair, right?
I will say
you're missing out.
There is something about the week to week that makes it really special. And so any chance you can get to watch it week to week, I would highly recommend that if you have yet to catch up. But
yeah, I think it's only like 8 episodes in, maybe something like that. 7 or 8.
I think we lost Lane there. Let's see if we
hops
in. And we'll
he's frozen.
There he is. We were losing you for a second.
Am I back?
Yeah.
I didn't even know I left. I heard y'all the whole time.
Okay. Well, that's good. So yeah, WandaVision it's a great show. And where can people find that, Joy?
It's streaming on Disney Plus. I think they got a new episode every week, I think Fridays. So definitely check it out.
Yep. Awesome. Check it out, guys. Okay. So Lane, what movie or TV show do you have for us today?
So for my movie, me and my fiance have been watching all of the Harry Potter films, which have been really fun because it brings us back to our childhood. Well, my childhood. She's never seen them, but again, that's why we're revisiting them. It's been a lot of fun. I read the books as a kid. I loved just all the movies. I even dressed as Harry Potter for Halloween once, which wasn't that hard. I just had to give myself a scar by hitting my head really hard and putting on some glasses. So,
yeah, I was Harry Potter, but I don't think I did the same thing. But go ahead.
Well, you didn't devote yourself to the role then. Yeah, so I'm definitely Hufflepuff. She's a Ravenclaw. I want to be a Gryffindor, but we got to face reality at some point.
We can't all be.
Yeah, exactly. But it's been a really fun time just rewatching them, especially during all the snow days that we've had. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think they speak for themselves. I mean, if you haven't seen Harry Potter at this point, then maybe you just never will watch it. But hopefully I can convince you to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, I've seen them all except for the last one. For some reason, I've just never, haven't seen part 2, Deathly Hallows Part 2. But I do love the movies up until the 4th one. After the 4th one, they all kind of start running together to me because like they change tonally and like the story kind of goes in a different direction. So like for me, I really enjoy the first 4. So, and I haven't seen the ending, but I know what happens. I mean, good always triumphs over evil. So
yeah,
you don't want it to be ruined. You want to make up your own alternate ending.
And that's fair because yeah, it's like, you know what, just stop after, if we're ahead, let's just stop. But yeah, the Order of the Phoenix, it does introduce a lot of concepts and characters, and it's like even watching it, Danielle was like, what's this and that, and who's that and this? I'm like, I was like, I know, trust me. I was like, it's a lot. I was like, and even reading the book as a kid, I don't think I understood half the stuff that I was talking about, but I was like, I just still love Harry Potter. I'm just going to keep reading the words on the page. But and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I love it. It's great.
Well, like even for me, I kind of fell off after the 4th book when I was reading that as a kid. But even then, that was right when the movie started coming out. And so I was like, well, what's the point of reading these books if we've got movies coming? So I just watched the movies and then I kind of like disregarded the books.
Well, to be fair, the books do have a lot of like filler stuff, quote unquote, where it's like, okay, this is like just descriptive and like not important.
Hey, now.
The only other franchise
I like all those extra adjectives.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to read, but it's like the movies kind of do just be like, okay, we'll take those words and we'll sum it up even quicker.
To the point.
So, yeah, so yeah, go watch Harry Potter. It's on Peacock.
Harry Potter
There
on
you have it.
All right.
Yep.
All right, we're going to move over to mine, and I'm going to talk about a film called Sound of Metal. So, for those who don't know, Sound of Metal is a film that came out at the end of last year, and I think December of 2020. But it's just kind of picked up a lot of buzz, especially for the award season coming up this past month. So I got a chance to finally watch it recently, and all I got to say is it is incredible. And no, it's not a metal documentary. A lot of people keep thinking that it's like a documentary of some sorts. The way they market it is really interesting, because they don't really tell you anything about what it's about, you know. But just kind of a little synopsis of what it is. It's directed by Darius Martyr, which apparently this is his first film to direct, so that's really cool to kind of see. It stars Riz Ahmed. He plays the character Ruben, which is the main character of the story. Olivia Cook plays Lou, which is his girlfriend in the movie. And then Paul Racy is a guy named Joe, who he kind of works with. And just a little backstory on what it's about. The kind of this overall synopsis is it's a story of a heavy metal drummer whose life is kind of thrown in a free fall whenever he starts to lose his hearing from playing so many shows without any kind of ear protection or anything like that. And so it kind of takes that idea and it's like, well, what is the repercussions of that? What does that do to a person? What does that do to their relationship? What does that do to their career? What does that do to the people around them? Being in that kind of situation. And so like him being a drummer and me being a drummer really spoke to me. One, with the fear of losing my hearing one day, which I hope that doesn't happen. For the most part, I protect my ears, but it really did kind of open your eyes to what can happen, and those kinds of changes. When you do lose your hearing, it's not something that you can just get back. And that's a lesson that that Ruben learns in the story. But without giving too much away, I love the story. I love the characters, the messages that it's putting out. Within the story, he meets a guy named Joe that's a part of this American Sign Language community, and he's also there for rehabilitation. And so he learns American Sign Language and kind of realizes this is like his new life. And so you just kind of go on this journey with him. It's shot in a way where it's super raw and very just kind of experiential. So like you're kind of there with the main character, just as much as he does in the situation. So it's really, really interesting to kind of live that experience throughout the film with him. And so by the end of it, like you just kind of step back and you're just like, wow. Like I remember I wish I could have seen this in the theater. It's on Amazon Prime. I highly recommend you could check it out there. It would have been great to see it in the theater, and that sucks that that's the case. But like the sound design, the cinematography, it's all just, it's beautiful and just amazing, and definitely will have award contention for an Oscar, whether that's acting, sound design, cinematography, or even screenplay, because it's an original story. I think it might be based on, true events in some form. I don't think they really like outline that, but it could be. But yeah, Sound of Metal. It's gonna be great to see. But yeah, have you guys heard of it?
Never heard of it.
I saw it advertised somewhere. Forgot where, but yeah, I was like, oh, it's interesting. And then I flipped through. I think it was like on TikTok of all places. So I was like, oh, that's cool. But flipped to the next thing.
That's they intended to market the movie.
And then my mind, yeah, I know, my mind was like gone. I was like, why? I was like, what was that?
Yeah, it's one of those movies when you see the credits roll, like you definitely don't expect that whenever the credits roll, but you're just hit with the whole experience all at once. You're just like, wow, it's truly a thought-provoking film for sure. but yeah, if you haven't seen Sound of Metal, go check it out. You won't be disappointed. And it's probably going to be nominated for a Best Picture in this year's Oscars for sure.
Wow.
At this point, I'm betting all my money on that because the acting's incredible. He may get a nomination for that, but it's a lot of lesser known actors, so this could be their chance to shine.
Yeah, that's interesting because recently I was contacted by someone who is writing an article about how hearing and a loss of hearing impacts art. And so I volunteered to do the interview. And there's some really thought-provoking questions on how we perceive the world by our hearing. And there's probably a lot of ways that we don't even realize that we're influenced by sound because sometimes we just focus on the visual so much, but there's so many things that impact us just from what we hear. And without that, I think we take in the world in a very different way.
Definitely. It opened my eyes to the deaf community a little bit more than what I've already kind of known, as well as, when you have people that, try to fix their hearing, when you can't really fix it, you can only, kind of make do with it. But, when they get implants or things like that, it kind of speaks on that experience. And that was some things that I didn't even know. So it was very educational in that regard as well. But yeah,
we'll have to go watch it.
Yes, check out Sound of Metal. It's probably going to be a Best Picture nomination. I hope it wins because that would be cool. But it's definitely a sleeper hit for sure. So yeah. And speaking of sound, we're going to move over to music. And basically, we'll do the same thing we did with movies and TVs. Yeah. We'll each go around and talk about some music that we've been listening to recently or some music that has inspired us. Joy, you're going to start us off and tell us about your music pick today.
Yeah, I usually listen to music when I'm in my studio, kind of experimenting with art or painting, or when I'm just driving down the road. So I'm usually looking for something that matches my mood. Usually I want something ambient, feel good music. So a lot of times, especially when I'm driving, I go to John Mayer because he's just that good. It's like comfort food, it's like comfort music. Like it always, I guess a couple of songs are a little gritty and heartbreaking, but for the most part, it's like smooth like butter. It's good on the ears. And it just kind of puts you in a good mood. Like one time I was on the road and a friend passed me and he's like, "Oh, I saw you in your car and you just had this really like pleasant look on your face." I was like, "Yeah, I was listening to John Mayer." So you caught me. And then also I've been listening to another artist called Louis Capaldi. So he has a lot of sentiment in his songs, and I love a good song that just makes you feel something, whether it's love or heartbreak or loneliness. He has like a really good kind of gritty vibrato that when he belts that note out, you're like, "Oh, I feel it. I'm with you." I don't feel it, but I do. So I've really enjoyed his music. You can find him on Spotify or anywhere. He's kind of a younger artist. And I'll mention one more just because I want to throw in something a little bit more spicy. So a friend of mine, introduced me to the genre of neo soul, neo jazz kind of stuff. And that was kind of a different world for me. But I was like, I feel this. Like it just has like one of the bands he suggested to start out with was a band called Moonchild. And it's just a kind of a different spin on jazz. So it's really smooth, but then it still has all like the heart and those instruments from jazz. So I've been enjoying kind of stepping into a new genre there.
That's really neat because I'm out of all those three, I'm most familiar with John Mayer, but I'm definitely going to check out the other two. Do you have any favorite albums or songs from any of those artists?
The song that comes to mind that I have listened to probably to the point where I got a little tired of it, was Louis Capaldi's Before You Go. It's kind of a heartbreaking song, but the lyrics really draw you in, and so it's a good one.
Okay. So Lane, have you heard of any of these artists here, or do you have any favorite albums by them?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, John Mayer. It's funny because I think of when he featured on a Fall Out Boy song. That's the weirdest part my brain goes to.
I don't remember that
but
one.
I mean, of course, yeah. I'm like, it's so random to think about, but that Gravity. There's a few others that the name escapes me bad for sure. And then Louis Capaldi, my fiance actually really got into him and showed me some songs, and I was like, dang, I didn't think I was gonna try to cry today, but you're gonna make me cry.
Well, let's go for it.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I guess shoot, we're gonna cry on Valentine's Day.
Pass the chocolate.
Yeah, I'm like, well, this will grow us, our relationship closer. But no, he's really like it's raw emotion. It's like, and like I said, when he hits that one note, you're like, ooh, like, that's intense.
It resonates.
So yeah, definitely really good artists there. Good choices. It does for sure. Any of the sound, like of metal, sound travels faster through solids than liquids or gases. So it all connects.
See, with like John Mayer, I'm most familiar with like Heavier Things and Room for Squares. What else has he got? Album with Gravity, Waiting on the World to Change. So a lot of his like poppier albums. And then for me, like I kind of fell off of him when he started going into the folky stuff. And then
I like his folk stuff.
Well, I definitely enjoy it, but it's not my go-to John Mayer. Like if you told me to like go listen to John Mayer, I'm going to go to like some of his early albums. But he kind of tied me or brought me back in with some of the more recent blues stuff that he's done, and he's gotten deep into like the jazz and blues community recently. That I've noticed. I haven't got to check out all of it, but like from what I've seen and heard, I've been really impressed. And so, and in a way, it's kind of going back to his roots with albums like Heavier Things and stuff like that. But out of those 3 artists, that's the one that stands out to me the most. I'm definitely going to check out Capaldi and
Moonchild.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. That sounds great. All right.
There you go.
So, Lane, what do you got for us in the world of music?
Yeah, so, well, because of the weather, I reverted back to an album from 2017. It's called, let me get this right because it's a tongue twister, it's 3 L's. It's Lovely Little Lonely. Lovely Little Lonely. Say that 3 times fast. And it's by a band called The Maine. They're very similar to the Killers. A lot of people know the Killers. So they're not as popular, but they're a really good band. That album, when it came out, there's kind of a memory associated with it, without going into too much detail. But basically, I remember that night because I got 2 free tickets to go see him at the House of Blues, and it just so happened to be the same night that the Astros were playing in the not the World Series, but the playoffs before they got to the World Series. And me and my cousin in Dallas were like huge fans. And he literally, his apartment is like here, and the House of Blues is like right there. And I told him, I was like,
oh,
dude,
wow.
I was like, listen, I was like, dude, this is all adding up. I explained the situation, and he loves the Killers too. So I was like, this band is just like the Killers, basically. And he was like, dude, this is awesome. Yes, come over, we'll watch the game, and then go over to the concert.
Nice.
And that's what we did. And the night was like, it just all added up, and it was so great. And recently, we kind of had a heart-to-heart, which is, if Reese knows my family really well, we are joking all the time, and like we just don't do stuff like that. So like when he told me that, he's like, dude, and this was like maybe a couple weeks ago, he's like, dude, I still think back to that concert and that night that we had. And I was like I'm verklempt. I'm like, don't talk anymore, it's gonna make me tear up, buddy.
One for the books.
Do what?
I just said it was one for the books.
It honestly was like, it all added up. And we even walked in right when they literally had just started playing, and it was like the perfect moment to walk in. And I think the Astros lost that night, but that's okay. We won't talk about that because they actually went to the World Series. But yeah, it's a really good album. You can listen to it like any time of year, any mood, anything you're feeling. There's a song for everything on that album, and that's again why I love it so much, because it starts off strong. It's got really good dynamics. It goes in and out. I know Reese knows the album. Joy, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's
Not yet.
yeah, you will be though. I'm selling it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. It's just good. I don't know how else to say it. It's just good music.
Just good music.
Just good music.
I'm always looking for new artists, because sometimes I kind of get on a roll listening to the same ones. So I'm always looking for new ones, new sounds.
Well, there you go. Yeah, their opening song, "Don't Come Down," that's one of my favorites. Black Butterflies and Deja Vu, but that's another good one off that album. Again, the whole album, but yeah, start off with those two, and yeah, you'll be in for a treat.
Take a ride.
Take a ride.
Well, I will say it's a great album. It's a band that I kind of followed from a distance for a few years, especially in like college, with like some of their old stuff, like Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Like that's like super throwback. But this is the album that got my attention for sure, because like this album, it kind of sounds like you mentioned the Killers mixed with like a little bit of the 1975.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's what's interesting about it. Like they have pop punk roots, but this album kind of shifted your view of who they are and kind of expanded their artistic style as far as what they've been giving us the past few years at that moment. And so that album kind of got my attention again. And I just remember when it came out, I was listening to it over and over and over on repeat, because it's one of those albums that that you can sit and listen from the top to the bottom, and then you want to start it over. It's just like that whole experience kind of gets you and captures you, and that's part of what makes a good album anyway, is something that could hook you in and keep you there for the entire time, rather than just like, here's a couple of singles, all bundled together. It's a journey, and that's what I loved about that album. So yeah, if you're into the Killers and the 1975, this might be the album for you, especially those who are listening right now. If you haven't heard of the Maine, definitely check them out. I recommend it. Lane's recommended it. So
yeah, and I'll say one more thing about the album. So Reese, how long would you think the album is, like minutes wise, like top to bottom? It's 12 songs. This surprised me today because I re-listened to it this morning and I was like, whoa. What would you say?
45 minutes.
Okay, close. It's 35 minutes, which I was like, I'm surprised. That's a short album for 12 songs. Yeah, you're close to the money, but it is a really short album, but it's so easy to listen to because it purposefully makes you have to listen, track 1, 2, 3, 4, because the transitions like are just there. And yeah, so yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
All right. So I'll round this off here and talk about my music choice. And what I am talking about today is Weezer's newest album, OK Human, which I'm assuming is a play off of Radiohead's OK Computer. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed or not, but that's the connection I made, and I was like, But anyway, Weezer's newest album, OK Human, it's a very different Weezer album. If you're familiar with Weezer, they're very kind of garage rock band kind of style, but they've also kind of evolved over the years. They have some more popular albums as well, kind of thrown in there, as well as a few cover albums. So they kind of just do everything, and this album kind of proved that with the incorporation of some orchestra elements with some brass and strings, and kind of put together this kind of Beatles esque album. And it kind of has flavor of Pretty Odd by Panic at the Disco. So like there's these little like folky orchestra kind of flavors injected into this album in the style of Weezer. So it's really interesting. It's hard to explain, but if you go listen to it, you'll know exactly what I mean. But some of the singles they had was All My Favorite Songs and Grapes of Wrath. And in the album itself, just a little backstory on it, was actually a side project that they were working on while they were working on their album that was supposed to come out last year that they had to move out to this year, called Van Weezer, which is more of like a stadium rock kind of album around the style of like Van Halen that they were trying to emulate. And they were supposed to go on tour with it last year. Well, because of, the shutdown and everything, they had to postpone it till this year. And so they didn't really feel like it made sense for them to put out this orchestra album when they were about to go on a stadium rock tour. So what they did was they had been sitting on this, like I said, last year for quite a while, and decided to finish it up during the pandemic quarantine. And this was kind of an output of it. There's a lot of songs that kind of refer to the times of, COVID and things like that. Like there's a song called Numbers talking about like the overuse of social media and like social comparison, because right now everybody's just all over social media all the time now. There's a song called Playing My Piano is about him avoiding Zoom interviews. But like, just like that. And then, Screens is about phone addiction and like what he's kind of noticed in his daughter's life and how she can't put her phone down and things like that. And so it was a very like 2020 kind of, I guess they kind of put it in that direction once they were like, well, we can finish this out, put it out, and then put out Van Weezer later on in the year. So them having a double album coming out is really cool. But like I said, it's a really interesting and unique Weezer album overall. Highly recommend you check it out. And are any of you guys familiar with Weezer? If so, have you heard this album? If not, what do you think?
I'm familiar, but I can't say I know any of their songs by name. So there's another band for me to go and recheck out again.
I would play it for you right now, but I don't want to get copyright struck and the video get taken down. So
I'll check it out later on my own time.
What about you, Lane?
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, my fiance Danielle, she loves like 90s rock. So Weezer, Red Hot Chili Peppers, any bands like that, we've listened to. I did hear that. What was the name of the single? It was like All My Favorite Songs.
Yes.
For some reason, the intro, and again, my mind just wanders to weird places, but it made me think of Nacho Libre in the sense that ambient, the just old school. I'm talking about the old school instruments and the way it just Nacho Libre is filmed. I was like, I feel like this would be a song in that movie. But of course, it's probably not. It's not a representation of what the whole album is. But Weezer's been known to just, like you said, garage rocks, like working off bare minimal stuff. So it's kind of cool to see him do some production value to the album. But I was surprised to see an album put out by them. I'm gonna have to go listen to it. I didn't realize the full album was out already. So, I'll have to go check it out. I'm excited.
Yeah, this was kind of a surprise for them as well, because like I said, they'd been sitting on this music that they were just kind of doing. It was probably going to be, something they would put out later and not, rush it out, because they were, working on Van Weezer and going to tour that. But I think it ended up being a really cool thing, because it's one of those things where they can have two different albums come out the same year and show people the two different sides or the multiple sides of this band, and have more people draw into either one. And what's funny is, we were mentioning runtimes. It is a 12-song album. Can you guess the runtime on this one?
Well, it'd be unfair because I looked it up and I just now saw it.
Cheater.
Okay, so
I know I cheated. I'm sorry. It's 30 minutes.
Boy, how long do you think it is?
Oh,
You just gave it away.
I just gave it away.
It's 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Good guess.
Which is crazy, because most 12-track albums are definitely not 30 minutes long. Most of these songs are 2 to 3 minutes. There's even like a 24-second interlude song in there. So like, as I was listening to it, and I didn't even know that I had like the album loop setting on my device. So like by the time I got to the end of the album, I didn't realize I was at the end. And then it replayed this first song. I was like, wait, that's it? It's over? You know, so it's like it was an experience that like, you know, pulled me in. And I was like, okay, we're playing with some strings and some brass instruments. Okay, here we go. You know, and then going through the album, it just kind of takes you in different down different roads. And then by the end of it, you know, you're just like, oh my gosh, it's already done. It's only been 30 minutes. So the fact that it's only 30 minutes shows that you can go listen to that and not feel like you've, you know, been listening for days. It's definitely a quick album. And I think that's part of the reason why they were, you know, inclined to put it out. It's a quick album. It's a neat concept, and it really expands your idea of what Weezer is. So if you haven't checked out OK Human by Weezer, go check it out now. It's awesome. Yes. All right.
Actually, Yes is a different band.
Yes, or that's correct.
Correct.
All right. So from there, we're going to jump into what we call our final jam. And so what that is, it's a final kind of wrap-up discussion here between the three of us. And today's discussion will kind of be a response to what we mentioned up top is, and we'll go around and kind of share our thoughts on this, but what are some personal career or hobby-driven goals that you want to accomplish in 2021, this new year? And how do you plan to take that on? So Joy, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts?
For me, I just realized that it is time to not be a closet artist anymore. So I'll be adding to my portfolio, and then I have it in my mind to have an end of the year exhibition, hopefully somewhere local. And so with some of new pieces that I'll be presenting, as well as I love installation art. So hopefully one big installation is what I have in my mind's eye. I just realized that unless you put the intention and the time into it, it's not going to happen. And I feel like I'm finally in the space to do so, and just ready to go for it and share what I have with the world again. So I'm excited to kind of materialize all the things that I've been gathering in my mind, as far as sketching, as far as reading and ideas, and see it flesh out. It'll be fun, but it'll be a lot of experimenting and definitely a lot of failing, because that's just part of it. So, but it'll be fun. It'll be messy.
Well, speaking of sharing, you've got a few pieces hanging up behind you. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that and maybe the story behind it?
Yeah, I love any opportunity to talk about my art, especially because I feel like these pieces actually kind of tie into some of the things that we've been talking about on our podcast today. I think we're all nostalgic people here, and Lane was talking about the song that just brings him back to that moment with his friend. And so that's what these pieces are a lot about. And a lot of my work is about memories and the human experience and kind of what shapes us and develops us. Sometimes they're these like really simple moments that almost seem insignificant, and then there's like these huge like earth-shaking moments that we can't help but be changed by them, like being in a pandemic or a snowpocalypse. Like they impact us, you know, unavoidably. But then there's also like these kind of little memories that shape us as humans as well. So I guess you can see these. I'll get out of the way a little bit, but this one here is a mixed media piece with an old photograph of my mom, black and white photograph of her and her brother playing out in the mud, like just getting down and dirty. And so this piece is called "Those Were the Days," and it's kind of all about like the simplicity of childhood and like just enjoying like the mess and the spontaneity of being young and carefree. And so you can almost imagine like when you've been out in the trenches and you're covered in mud and you first get onto that like fresh clean carpet and it's just like everywhere. So there's actually real sand on this piece, as well as like all kinds of like tea stains and ink and things like that. And then at the very top, there's like a little stick. So it's all kind of about that. I think we all have moments of our childhood where we were just getting messy and enjoying that sort of fun outside. And then this one over here, I have a kind of a screen, a fabric. See if I can come a little bit closer. I'm using my iPad here. So that one is like a fabric transfer of the beach with my sister, and then a small photo of my mom in the beach. And then intermingled in all of the fabric are dates written from different participants who also had like a memory at the beach. So some shared about a time when they went on their honeymoon or when they went with their family on vacation. And it's kind of how, even though we're all so different, we all have these like similar experiences and these similar moments where we kind of interact with the same things in similar ways. So those are just a couple glimpses of the kind of work that I do. I'll be branching out in some other endeavors, working with resin. It's going to be a new one for me. It's going to be very messy and toxic, but and then working with fabric and clay will be some more things up and coming. So you could check out some more of my other pieces on Facebook at Joy Owens Arts and Crafts. I have a few up there, and I'll be adding some more as time progresses. So.
Awesome. Yeah,
Cool.
For me, I think those are really cool ways to capture a memory, especially with the tangible materials that you have with it. Because like it almost looks like the picture is the process of, or like the bottom piece is the output of the picture that is shown in a way. So like you can imagine those two kids, throwing around the mud and having fun, which if we try to do that right now, I don't know if people would look at me the same as they would like a kid doing that, but it definitely, like, seeing that makes you miss those times of getting messy and playing in the mud. But I think that's really cool. And even the beach, everybody's got memories of going to a beach at some point, hopefully.
Yeah.
But and those are always really interesting moments, really cool things to see there. And you really captured that experience in that piece too.
Thank you. I always try to make it a little bit of an experience so that people can hopefully have their own memories to connect with it. I don't want it just to be about my memory or this person's memory. Hopefully there's an entryway for you to kind of plug in your own experience with those elements of your own childhood or some significant life moment.
So do you plan on putting more pieces into this series, or expanding this idea of nostalgia or memories in a way through other mediums maybe?
That's a question I've been wrestling with for a long time, because it's been a while since I've added to what I would consider my professional portfolio. I've done some commissions and painting projects on the side, but I've been kind of wrestling with, do I go back to this and kind of continue from here, or do we go in a different direction? And I feel like the answer is kind of a combination. I want to kind of graft some of the ideas and elements that I used in some of my older pieces, and then I have some new ideas to kind of converge with it. And so I think they're gonna materialize in a different sort of way, but they'll still be very cohesive and reflective of my earlier works, but still with the same ideas of drawing from personal experiences and significant memories. So we'll see how it all fleshes out, but I'm excited for the process.
Oh yeah, for sure. Lane, do you have anything else to add? Everybody that's listening should definitely go check out Joy's artwork. She does a great job. But yeah, Lane?
Yeah, I mean, as far as me personally for the goals for this year, I would say I definitely want to move up more in Chick-fil-A to the director level. get married. It's also a big one.
Yeah, you got like this massive checklist to catch up from last year.
Big one.
I'm like, you know what? I could just end it after those. After those two, I'll be set. Like that's the two big ones. Yeah, it's really been that. As far as hobbies go, I mean, those are my two big, life goals for this year. As far as hobbies go, I really want to get connected more with music, specifically getting to a home church to be able to play bass again, because I really do miss that experience of, every Sunday getting to play in the band. So I definitely want to start looking more. I've got a few churches around the area that we're going to look at and try to get connected to. So yeah, and then other than that, that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome. For me, it's really kind of what I've talked about earlier in the show. It's my goal is to try to take all these ideas and concepts that I've been, kind of cooking in my head and kind of give them a try. And like we kind of mentioned too, sometimes you'll fail or sometimes it just won't work. But I think what's important in the creativity process is to do things regardless if you think it's a good idea or not. It's mostly the idea of doing it that progresses your skill set, I think. And even one of our painting professors back in college told us, I remember very well, it was, when we were in our painting class, and he would tell us to just kind of just paint whatever, but like paint until you enjoy it, until you like look at it and you're like, oh, I like that, So like sometimes it's just the process of doing it and then finally landing on a solution that you're happy with that makes all of the process and all the work pay off, because you made the effort and you tried to do something. And sometimes you'll make some crappy paintings or you'll make, a crappy song or whatever it is. Like it's all going to push you forward and get you where you need to be. So I think that's my goal, is to keep trying to throw out my creativity in different avenues through my hobbies, through some of my skill sets, and just see what sticks basically, and just have fun with it. So that's kind of my goal.
Yeah, I specifically remember that moment because we were in class together in painting class with Professor Derek White, and he put a blank canvas out before us, and he had all these different kinds of paints and materials, and it was like, okay, everybody just go for it. And everyone was a little apprehensive at first, like, what are we going to do? We have to make something beautiful on this blank canvas. And he's like, well, sometimes art is about just like creating, and then you fix the problem. Like even if it looks like, sometimes it's about making a mess and it looks terrible, and then you like find your way around it. And it's not always necessarily about making it like aesthetically pleasing or beautiful, but like take whatever problem you have and like wrestle with it and create something from it. Don't just trash it. So I remember that moment. That was very
I was so afraid to mess up the painting, because I was like, I've got this room of all these great artists, and at the time, I was very, self-conscious about my own style and where I was kind of headed.
We all were.
But like, I just remember I was like, oh my gosh, I got to contribute to this, and I could not screw it up. Otherwise, we're done for. But that's a great point for
throwing in my paintbrush.
Yeah, but that's a good point for anything. Like, even if you're not good at something or you don't think you're good at something, the act of just doing it is enough. And that's even like a Mr. Rogers quote that just came to mind, where he's just like, I'm going to sit here and color and draw or paint or whatever, but I'm going to do it and enjoy doing it and not necessarily worry about the output. So whether that's, playing bass, making paintings, whatever it is, make sure that you're doing it and you're enjoying it, because that's all that really matters. It's the idea of being creative and not necessarily the output. So does anybody else have anything to add to that before we wrap up?
I think that sums it up pretty nicely. You can't go wrong with the Mr. Rogers quote.
That's
you just can't. That's kind of the gauntlet. That's the final hit.
Unless we can add a Bob Ross quote as well to it, and then we're set.
Yeah. There's no mistakes, only happy accidents.
Right.
That's right.
Boom, second gauntlet. Well, let's end it right there. We had a great discussion today. If you want to find out more about Joy and her work, go check out her website. You can find me on social media at Reese_MCK. You can find Lane at, tell us where you can find him.
Well, you can find me Facebook, Instagram. Those are my two main platforms. At the Fastlane9 on Instagram.
Fastlane. What about you, Joy? Where can people find you, and anything you want to plug or promote before we go?
Like I said earlier, I have some of my works up on Facebook, so check me out, Joy Owens Arts and Crafts, and you can see a few more examples of works that I've done, as well as some paintings and some really weird stuff that I experiment with.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much for everyone who has tuned in to watch us today. Definitely let us know in the comments of what are some of your goals for 2021. What are some things that you're being creative with? What is your process like? Tell us some of your favorite movies, TV shows, music, everything in the world of entertainment. Make sure you follow and subscribe to Random Jam on Facebook, on YouTube. Subscribe, do what all those YouTube people do. Leave us a like if you like this video. And I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.